So I was sitting back watching that Obama and that Michelle speech recently. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. If not for anything, right? Feel how you feel about politics, whatever. But if not,
Me nigga, that hot boy shit is killing me, nigga.
but if not for anything, if not for anything, given the current state of the social climate, um, particularly the climate on social media, uh, when it comes to just men and women, blah. Just to watch it and allow your subconscious to be influenced by the image. And some of us, we experience this image and have experienced this image in real time. So it's not nothing new to us, so to say. But what it does to the morale to see a black man and a black woman publicly praise each other to the level that they did, again, it's just good for the mentality. It's just good for one's psychology, given the given the social climate, given the type of stuff that's in the media, given certain agendas with certain institutions. Right? We'll just say that. That's apparent, right? It becomes apparent more and more every day, right? Um, I will watch it just for that very reason, right? Um, with that, as I was watching it, it reminded me of um, Frederick Douglass, right? And we hear about Frederick Douglass, we read about him, or for the most part, most of us, we're told about him what grade school, first grade, second grade, third grade, one of those fucking grades in grade school, right? We're told about Frederick Douglass, right? Um, but all we get is, you know, a brief summary of his importance, right? Which who the fuck actually remembers, right? Um, and maybe a quote here or there, right? And I remember one time I stumbled across a bookstore, and you know me. If you know me, I'm always exploring shit. I'm an explorer, right? I like to just. I'm the type of person who wonders but is never lost, right? So I stumbled upon a bookstore, one of them ones too. I mean, they had some. They had. It was some heat in that motherfucker, yo. It was some like. So it was some things in there that I've looked for today and before on the internet and still haven't found, right? Like just it was some heat in that motherfucker, right? And of course, I grabbed some as much as I could. It's easy. It's pretty easy to like drop a bag in a bookstore if you know, right? Um, but one of the books I read was a book on American history. I don't even think it was so much a Black history book, but in that book, it had a few speeches from Frederick Douglass. And as I was reading it, I was just drew back. I completely just, let's say, appalled. That's one of the words you hear motherfuckers say, you know, but it's like very much appalled, very much like just wild the fuck wild, right? Because again, context and nuance, keeping in mind who he was talking to, the time he was talking to these people, and what he was saying, right? I'm like, this shit is crazy, right? Just this shit is crazy. So it's just, reading that at that time in my grown age, I certainly was in my 30s, right? At least late 20s. I'm sure, no, I was in my 30s for sure. So just finally reading that, it was just wild, right? And like I said, watching that Obama speech, it reminded me of that. And I didn't necessarily hear about. I heard about what old boy said with the spectacle, but I never watched it. I was never. I'm a fan of martial arts, but I was never a fan of that shit, right? Um, so hearing it and seeing it, it's just a reminder of the importance of not letting people tell you who you are, especially people that don't look like you, right? And again, just the power of education the power of education, the power of having that knowledge yourself. Because the old boy got on there saying that weird shit. He just looked like a fool. Yeah, he just looked like a fool. But yeah, that's my TED talk.